4 new podcast apps have entered the ring. While there are no shortage of podcast apps on iPhone, these 4 have added some interesting little tweaks and features. Some of these apps do way more than just podcast listening, and one of these is a Podcasting 2.0 app, which brings things like transcriptions from RSS feeds and even lets you comment on episodes. These are the 4 apps I want to be talking about today, and they're relatively new, so you're not going to find as many features as you do in Pocket Cast or Overcast, and there are no Apple Watch apps for any of them. But one has some incredible shortcuts actions, and one of them wins on cool animation design. First up, let's look at Sofa. Sofa's been an app where you can manage movies, TV shows, books you want to read, and other things, and now developer Sean Hickman has added a complete podcast player and manager into his app. Now, I did a full deep dive on the Sofa app in general. I'll link it above and down in the description if you want to see how I use it with Smart Lists. But the new podcast features he built in are actually pretty powerful. Let's start with the player. When you're playing a podcast, this is what it looks like. It shows custom chapter artwork like I have here for Primary Technology. Links to that show above and down below. You can change the playback speed here, AirPlay it. I like the quick access to show notes right here, and the show notes are formatted very nicely. Better than Apple Podcasts, I have to say. Quick access to chapters if the podcast you're listening to supports those. And the 3 dots, you have some Sofa-specific actions like adding to the logbook of things you've listened to or marking this episode as played. You can adjust the time for skip forward and back. And then these little arrows actually let you jump by chapters back and forth. Love just having those all right here on the Now Playing screen rather than under a menu. Now by default, when you want to add a podcast to Sofa, you have to tap the plus button on the main screen, then go to Podcasts, and then you can search for a show up here. Once you find a show, you can tap to learn more, and then you can add it to your Up Next. But then when you tap Add To, you only get the default sections, and so you would probably want to put this in the Things to Listen To. But Things to Listen To can also include music and audiobooks, so I created a Smart List, which just lists my podcasts right here. Now, one weird quirk is when you're looking at your podcast on a Smart List like this, you can't just play an episode. I can see podcast episodes, and they're all listed here, but tapping on one just brings me to the episode information page, and there's no way to just play it right here. If I tap episode link, it actually sends me over to the website. So my only recommendation here would be to have a quick play button if I wanted to start playing one of these episodes in the list right from that screen. But on the main podcast page, you'll see the information, you can add tags, and even open this podcast in other podcast apps, which is pretty nice. You can also tap the 3 dots, go to podcast settings, and you do get some options you would expect, like auto download, how many episodes to keep, either the global default or you can choose a specific number, and it even lists the podcast RSS feed here in the show information, which is pretty cool. Now, if you wanted to play the next episode, that's going to be in your Up Next area, and the queue management is pretty good. It shows the currently playing episode, and then you can drag the episodes up and down, or you can even tap the 3 dots and reorder them newest to oldest, alphabetically, and more. Then when you tap an episode in that list, it will start playing. Now there are some other settings here for the general Sofa app. Again, this will be in my full deep dive, which I link below, but you can go to the podcast player options. If you want to turn off the podcast feature entirely, you can do that. You can hide the Up Next queue when empty. Here you can change the seek forward and back. You can go up to 90 seconds, but I actually have a shortcut that lets me skip forward 3 minutes. I'll show you that in a second. And if you want to have new episodes automatically go to the Up Next. There is also import OPML file, so if you want to export your followed podcasts from Apple Podcasts, Overcast, or Pocket Casts, you can then import them here, or export all the shows you follow here to another app. I also kind of wish you could add a podcast here from the Podcast Smart List. If you search here, that's just searching the podcast you already follow. In order to add a podcast to your Sofa app, you have to do it from this main screen. Also, I do not see a sleep timer here, if that's a big deal for you. But lastly, I will say there are a ton of shortcuts actions for Sofa. So if you just search for Sofa here in shortcuts, you'll see tons of options here, from adding to lists, finding an item. You can open certain lists for navigation. So you can create a shortcut that opens right next to that Up Next queue with your podcast. So really powerful shortcuts integration. I love Sofa for books, movies, and TV shows, and now adding podcasts, it feels like a natural next step, and it's actually a really good podcast player. Some of the features are behind the subscription paywall, but it's just $4 a month, which is what I pay for. You can do family plans, or you can pay for a year at $30. Also, Sofa has widgets that you can put on your home screen, like for your Up Next queues. That also includes lists, or you can do pinned items. Lots of different options for widgets here. Another new podcast app is called Q. Q's pretty interesting. It's very minimal. You're not going to find as many features as even Sofa or other apps, but it has some really nice design elements and cool animations. You can have all your followed podcasts here, and you can just tap the plus button to search. And you saw that little animation there just hitting the plus icon. Really kudos for a bit of whimsy around the app, which is really cool. If you're playing an episode down here, you'll also see a little animation right above the artwork. You can skip forward, back, and pause. and then you can open the player. Now the Now Playing screen, I'm not crazy about because it does focus a lot on the text and makes it a little difficult to actually get to things like chapters or controls for actually playing back. It does have the chapters down here with nice little segments along the playhead, and you can tap there to actually see all the other chapters, skip forward and backwards. You can also just tap this arrow to go to the next chapter. You can change the playback speed down here, and under the little 3-dot menu, you can set a sleep timer, mark as played. You'll see that the episode is downloaded, and you can go to the podcast details page. Again, some interesting design choices here. You have the episode number, language, and you do see release cadence, links to the website, and when you started following the show. And then you'll see the episode listing down here. I do wish there were swipe actions, which there are none here in the Q app. There aren't really swipe actions here in Sofa either, just thought I should mention. So in order to add something to your queue, you do kind of have to manually tap on an episode here under the show page. New episodes of podcasts you follow will automatically be added to the queue, and that's really the main screen of the app. I mean, it's literally the name of the app. So you have queue up here. You can also see favorites if there's episodes that you've marked as favorites and bookmarked. You can reorder episodes here in the queue if you want just by tapping and holding, dragging them up and down, but there's not really like granular management for the queue. There's also no import or export of OPML files to quickly move your subscriptions. Also, the custom chapter artwork and episode artwork is pretty small. It can be hard to see. You can tap the chapter artwork and it will expand it, but I do think just showing that larger here on the Now Playing screen would be advantageous. But I give Q credit for things like little fun animations around the app, and I do like some of the font choices around too. And if you want to add a podcast to your library, you can tap the search button up there. There are some settings over here on the left pane, things like auto download, auto play next episode. You can change the skip forward up to 60 seconds. I wish that was higher. And there are widgets for a queue that you can add. This is the queue widget right here, and it brings you right back to the app. Now, some of the features are under a subscription. I'm on the Pro plan right now. It's also $4 a month or $30 per year. Next up is Neuecast. I like the icon, pretty minimal. This is going to have a few more features than Q, but not as many as the bigger apps. So you have your subscriptions here. You can go to a show, see the episode listing, tap an episode to play, and you're ready to go. Now, I will say the title of episodes are really large in font here, and the rest of the text seems really small. So I think there's a little bit of imbalance there, but you can scroll down, you see all the show notes. You do get chapters right here. You can skip forward to the chapters, but unfortunately, there's no chapter artwork visible on this Now Playing screen. Would like to see that custom chapter or episode artwork shown, but one feature I really love here on the Now Playing screen is this links category. Basically, all the links that are in the show notes, things to like social media handles, links to articles that you might have put in the show notes, like from Primary Technology, quick access to all of those with the little images. Really cool idea to have a separate link section per episode. That's pretty unique to the Neuecast app, so 2 thumbs up for that. Also give credit for swipe actions, which you can customize if you upgrade to their Pro plan. I'll show you where to customize that in a second. There is the episode queue, so you can reorder what's going to be playing next. You also have recently played and saved. Plus you can search across the podcasts and episodes. Here under the settings, you can change the appearance a little bit. Also change some of the playback controls, again, if you upgrade to the premium plan, which is $10 per year, but it's pretty usable without the premium. You just don't get some of those settings. You can also adjust those swipe actions. If you want to add a show, you can go to the magnifying glass here, search for new podcasts. And the far left tab is also the latest episodes from across all the shows you follow. Interesting that there's both an episode queue, which is going to be playing next, and just all the new episodes. As far as I can tell, if you want to add these to the queue to automatically play next, you need to go into the episode, tap the 3 dots right here, which can be hard to see, and then add it to the queue or play next. You also have some other options here, like sharing the episode. But if I add it to the queue, now if I go back to this tab, now you'll see the episode there. Wish there was a setting for new episodes of podcasts I choose to automatically be added to the queue, but I could see why you would probably want to customize that swipe action to add to queue. You can't change that until you upgrade to the Pro subscription. So again, interesting ideas here for certain episodes, but definitely kudos for this links option in the podcast player. Really like that. Also, no sleep timer that I can see in the Now Playing screen. All right, and finally, number 4. This next one's a little wild, the Fountain app. Fountain is what you call a podcasting 2.0 app, meaning it's bringing new features from RSS feeds like transcriptions and even doing things like comments for particular episodes. So there's a lot going on in this app. Let's just go to an individual episode, start playing it, and look at the Now Playing screen. Pretty full-featured. You can actually clip sections of an episode right here and share that as a little file. Really interesting UI for picking out the clip and granularly getting those time codes, which is pretty cool. You can also comment on an episode and then other Fountain users can see that and engage. Now, a lot of people would have to be using the Fountain app specifically, and you're probably not going to get people to move over, but cool that you can comment. There is a sleep timer right here. You can change the playback speed here, skip forward and back, and lots of links down here for the episode information. You can go to the episode show notes, formatted nicely here. You can tap the chapter icon and you get the chapters. You also get the full transcript. Now, this is interesting because Apple Podcast, you get transcripts, but Apple is transcribing them. Fountain actually pulls the transcript that podcast creators provide in their RSS feed. So you're not going to get transcripts everywhere, but when you do, it's because the creator put it in their RSS. You can skip forward and back and play any part of the transcript, and you can also search the transcript up there. Now there is an up next queue here in Fountain as well. You can add episodes automatically or manually to that. And of course, you can share this episode with a Fountain link using that button. Tap the three dots and you get even more options like starring an episode, tagging it, and all of this. So pretty much all the things you would want in an app like this. Well, everything except chapter artwork. It does not display the custom chapter artwork on the now playing screen. It just shows the custom episode artwork. That's unfortunate. Wish it showed chapters, but just episode. Now, if we go back, you can go to your up next queue, episodes, shows, all of that. Here's your episode library. And when you go to a podcast, of course, you'll see the list of episodes, your listening activity for that show, and even clips that people created of this episode. You even get to see the little username of the person who made the clip, which is pretty slick. Now, there's some interesting features like wallet, supporting shows, things like that. I didn't test or bother with any of that because I'm not really sure what it does, but that's that last tab. You can search for podcasts here, and on the home screen, there's actually a list of activity, which, again, it's really trying to make a community out of podcasts, which I appreciate, but there's not a ton of people actually using the Fountain app and commenting, so a lot of it is just kind of the Fountain and a few different users, and it's probably for shows you don't listen to right now. You can go into the settings, and there are a ton of options here. Automatic downloads, adding new episodes to the queue, you got all of that. Playback options like speed and skip forward and back, manage your storage, and more. Now, Podcasting 2.0 even supports things like live streams, and you can actually listen live to podcasts who are streaming here in the app. I haven't seen any of those or done that yet, but if you're looking for like power RSS features, and if you're listening to shows that utilize them, Fountain is a great app to try. Now, which podcast app do I use? Listen, here's the thing. If you were to ask me what is still the de facto best podcast app overall, I still think it's Pocket Casts. It's up next queue management, features for episodes. You can now share clips. You can view the transcript here provided by the RSS feeds. Pocket Cast has pretty much everything you would want from a podcast app. I love the swipe gestures to go over to the show notes and the chapters. I mean, Pocket Cast is it. But I have still been using Apple Podcasts mainly for my listening. Why? I'm not really sure. I'm still just playing by Bluetooth in my car, so it's not that the Tesla only has an Apple Podcast app. I just really like the design, and I've gotten into the habit of using the latest episodes here in the library as like my up next queue. I still think Apple Podcast has a weak up next queue. Just weird behaviors like the continue playing, I can't drag it up in the queue. Like, that's weird. It has little handles. I should be able to do that. It doesn't have features that Pocket Cast has, like if this is my favorite show, I can go to the settings and I want to add it to my up next queue whenever there's a new episode and put it at the top of the list or put it at the bottom of the list. Pocket Cast has those great settings, but Apple Podcasts does transcribe every episode of every podcast. And sometimes I want to search a transcript just to see if they mention something, and having a transcript for every episode, whether the creator provides it or not, is pretty convenient because then I can just click the magnifying glass and start searching right away. Plus, Apple Podcasts has the little separators for segments and chapters here, the transcription design, and actually viewing it live while talking with the chapter name here above the section. Still the best when it comes to design of the transcripts. And of course, you could search the transcript down here. And I do love Apple Podcasts listing of episodes when there's custom episode artwork. I think the best of any app. I mean, this looks really good, especially when a creator actually adds custom episode artwork. And that's something even Pocket Cast, when you go to a specific show, you don't see the episode artwork here in the listing. Pocket Cast doesn't even show you the episode artwork when you actually start playing an episode. It defaults to the chapter artwork immediately. And so if you have chapter artwork, you don't see the episode artwork. It's a minor thing, but it's one of the reasons why I love the look and UI of Apple Podcasts, and I've been sticking with Apple Podcasts by default. So those are 4 new podcast apps to try, but let me know down in the comments, what's your go-to podcast app right now? Or if you tried one of the new ones, did you switch? I'd love to hear about it. You can check out my deep dive on the Sofa app. I'll link that video right up here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Lots of new videos coming soon. iOS 19 and dub just a couple months away. And I'm going to be covering it all right here on the channel. Which, if you wanted to see the latest features of iOS 18.4 that just came out, I did a whole video on that. I'll link it right here. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.